Hi, this is Mrs. Adams, and I've got today our discussion on Chapter 1, Section 1, changes to the Old World. So I'm going to just start off by kind of recording what we did in class. I'm going to move quicker than we did in class period, so you're welcome to pause at any time or rewind to catch something, but I just wanted to try to fit this whole section in 15 minutes so we don't have multiple videos, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. As it starts out, Marco Polo in the mid-1200s really inspired a lot of people to look for great riches after he had explored China. He finds a lot of riches, brings those back, and people have a big appetite for those things. So he does inspire several groups to get moving in that direction. One of those was Muslim traders. They control the land route between Asia and Europe. So they serve as a middleman, charging extra fees to move the goods. So Europe decides that they are tired of paying that money, and so they want to find a different route. So they look to the sea. They look to the water. They're going to find a water route to Asia. So several explorers that we'll talk about will make those moves and make advancements to connect the two continents. Now it helps along the way that they have the compass for direction, the astrolabe for finding out latitude, and then a caravel, a new type of ship that had a different style of sails. It was easy to move. It could go into shallower water. It had a large cargo hold, had heavy firepower to protect it from being taken by pirates. So these advancements helped the push to go to the sea for trade to move forward. So this is a caravel, an artist's rendition of what that might have looked like. Now, part of what pushes the exploration was this idea of mercantilism, this national economic system that drove a lot of the exploration of the time. So if you think about the world's wealth is this set pie, all of the wealth that is available is in this circle and this pie, and then it is the opportunity of each country to have the biggest piece of that pie. So if you have the wealth of the nations split up, as you see in this second graph, you can see that some segments are larger than others. So in the case of the blue segment, they're trying to hold on to their wealth, but the red could gain hold in the market and start to take away from the blue. And so the red begins to grow and the blue shrinks. The same thing, the purple wants to be able to be more like the orange, and so it's going to start taking a little bit more from this teal or some from the green. So it's always a win-lose situation. For somebody to be gaining and taking ground and making money, then somebody else is losing it. So that's the facts of mercantilism. It's a win-lose situation. In the free enterprise system, we see we can have winners, win-win situations, because often a country has too much of one product and they need it from something else, and they can trade and set up relationships that are beneficial to both. But the purpose of mercantilism is to enhance the wealth and power of a nation. The more wealth you have, the more power you had. So these two basic assumptions is that a nation's wealth consists of precious metals, especially gold. So the more gold you had, the more wealth you have, so you can increase that wealth by getting more gold. So whether you do that through exploration and finding gold, taking it from other nations like the native people, or winning that in war, or taking, buying and selling goods and making money, it's all about having more wealth to have more power. So it does lead to the seeking of colonial empires for riches, raw materials. So sometimes it's not always in gold, but it's the materials that can be turned into gold later on. So like England, who would have taken goods, raw goods like lumber out of New England and taken it home, made it into tables and chairs, and then sold it back to the colonists, there you can have colonies as a way to get raw products, but also to have consumers for your products. There is the goal to have a favorable balance of trade. You want to export more than you import, so sending more out of your country than you buy in. And so this was a goal of every nation. And to help with this, they often set tariffs, high taxes on imported goods, to discourage people from buying outside of the country or people to import. They wanted to make it hard for them to do it. And there's also quotas, setting limits on how much can be brought in. So all these were ways that mercantilism operated to try to increase the wealth of nations. So through exploration, countries could also grow their wealth. So the Portuguese have two examples of their explorers. Here is Bartholomew Diaz, who sailed around the western coast of Africa, kind of keeps bumping along that edge, gets down to the southern tip and is able to go around the Cape of Good Hope, and away, getting closer to making it to India. Vasco da Gama will follow, and he does get to India and sails back and has a very profitable voyage. I don't know the cost of his voyage, but he came back with 60 times the value of his expedition. So imagine investing $1 in something and getting 60 in return. So it was very encouraging to nations to keep pushing forward. Also, we have Christopher Columbus, who we know well here in the U.S. He was trying to find Japan by sailing west. Everyone else had been sailing west. He wanted to reach Japan by sailing to the west. Others had been doing it to the east. Let's get that clear. But he did not realize it was actually 11,000 miles away, and that there was two major continents, North and South America, in his way. So when he lands in the Bahamas and makes contact with the native people there, he feels that he has reached Asia and has accomplished his goal, but others will prove him wrong. One of those was Amerigo Vespucci, who will realize it's actually a new world, that this land is not part of Asia, but is two whole new continents. And so we see a German map maker naming the region more after Amerigo than we see Columbus, because he makes the realization that it's actually a new place. Ferdinand Magellan will also led the trek around the world. He takes 5 ships with him, and the largest of those is still smaller than a modern-day tugboat. So the tugboat that pulls a cruise ship out of harbor, it was still smaller than that. So they are heading out on the wide ocean with not much to protect them. They will make the trek around the globe, stopping in various ports. Magellan is killed in the Philippines by poisoned arrows when they have a problem with the native people there. But 18 of his 300 men will make the 3-year journey. Many, I'm sure, had wrote them off long ago that they would never return, but they do make it back with many stories of this round-the-world trek. The English will see John Cabot claiming land in Newfoundland, discovers this land, and then they use that as the basis for their claim in North America, saying that they should have a right to control land and set up colonies here. So the exploration was very wide, and we'll see how this sets up for setting up colonies. There's also religious change. We see Martin Luther calling out the corruption in the Roman Catholic Church. He sees that, among other things, salvation, that the Catholic Church is calling for penance, a payment for salvation, while he believes it is simple trust in Christ's death on the cross, that it's a free gift, it shouldn't cost you anything. So he has his teachings that he contradicts the Catholic Church, and then posts the 95 Theses on the door of his church to help spark the Protestant Reformation. Someone writes down what he has listed or gets access to it, then using the printing press will make that more widely available to other nations. A little meme humor here. So the Protestant Reformation will take root deeply in England, Switzerland, and parts of Germany where Martin Luther was from. And we'll see John Calvin from Switzerland. So they are able to spread the word of the Protestant Reformation very widely here. It's accepted. It starts to grow. We see it impacting many areas. But it is greatly opposed in France and Spain, which were far more deeply rooted in the Catholic faith. And so due to their commitment to the Catholic Church, we don't see them following the Protestant Reformation. It probably still had some impact, but not widespread. So the Protestant Reformation also helps to lead to military conflict between countries. We have wars between England and France and England and Spain. So there's a lot going on with that that causes conflict. So we'll talk more about that. There's also rivalries and exploration. So new lands means new people that you could convert to your faith. And the more area that your flag flies over, the more people that might be reached by your faith. And so we see the English bringing their church to the colonies. We see priests traveling with explorers from the Spanish trying to convert the native people to Catholicism. And so it does have a great impact. Here's John Calvin. He had influence in Switzerland, where he was from. And he also wanted to argue for the trust in Christ for salvation. He pushes for quality education also. He says that there should be universal literacy. Everyone should have access to learning how to read and write. And that was the only way that you could know that the pastors were spreading the right message, was that you could read your own Bible and to be able to discuss it with them. We also see education for the clergy being very important. If they're going to be teaching the people about the Bible, they need to be well versed in it. And they also wanted to see that every job is viewed as sacred. No matter what your status, that your job has a sacred calling, that you are fulfilling God's plan through your job. And we know all these jobs, no matter what they are important to society. Everyone from the president of a company to the person who picks up the trash. They're all necessary jobs to keep things pushing forward. And so it's very helpful that we have everyone working within a system to support it. So I wanted to just remind you to please keep checking back on Google Classroom. For assignments, check the stream. I'll post little messages there that you might need. Not making everything an assignment, but check classwork and the stream and making sure that you're staying on top of those. There's still some items. Just make sure you're staying on top of those. I'll try to keep messaging you about them. But I'll keep trying to record segments of our discussion, our lecturing class, so that you have that information. We continue as we're working towards going through the chapters and assessments. I'll keep you up to date on those as I can, and I'll be passing on some more information soon. So I hope you are doing well. Please let me know if you have any questions that I can help with by my email, messages on Google Classroom. Let's just work to stay on top of this so we can work together, and hope you're all doing well.